Now, in the wake of the deadly shooting at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, which saw a man, I'm only going to say his name here, and then, of course, for the rest of the time, I'm just going to refer to him as the shooter, Devin Kelley. Now, Devin Kelley was a 26-year-old former USAF service member who killed 26 people with a high-powered semi-automatic rifle. Now, after that happened, of course, on Sunday, President Trump comes out earlier today and makes a statement on the shooting that was obviously pretty well reserved, and I guess it uses talking points that are familiar to people who roll in the pro-gun circle. So now he spoke from Japan and actually had this to say. I'm going to show you this video, and then we're going to break it down.
Mental health is your problem here. This was a very, based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual. A lot of problems over a long period of time. We have a lot of mental health problems in our country, as do other countries. But this isn't a guns situation. I mean, we could go into it, but it's a little bit soon to go into it. But fortunately, somebody else had a gun that was shooting in the opposite direction. Otherwise, it would have been as bad as it was. It would have been much worse. But this is a mental health problem at the highest level. It's a very, very sad event. These are great people, and a very, very sad event. But that's the way I view it.
So, of course, here's the president saying, don't talk about the guns. It's too soon. It's too soon. Don't actually talk about the guns. It's mental illness. Turns out the guy's very, very deranged. Very deranged. And thank God for the other guy with the gun who just decided to shoot back. Now, this is the president of the United States saying this. I can understand somebody from the NRA. It's like, oh, thank God we had somebody who was armed, who was shooting back. But it's the president of the United States. He's encouraging people, hey, if there's a shooting, it doesn't matter where you're at, shoot back. Now, that can be very problematic when, for saying, you know, you have the police that show up and don't know who the bad guy is. Well, if you're the good guy with the gun, as you know, we saw in the shooting in Vegas, there are a lot of people who were armed who were potential good guys with the guns, but they didn't go and draw their guns. They didn't return fire. And number one, they had no idea where the shooting was coming from. Number two is that they were concerned that when the police actually got there, you know, the people who were actually trained to come into these situations and actually take care of the situation and save people's lives, well, they were worried that the police were going to mistake them for the shooter and shoot and kill them. So here's the president of the United States saying, oh, forget about that. Go ahead and shoot back. God forbid if anybody takes his advice and says, oh, you know what? That's a great idea. I'm going to go and shoot back if I'm in one of these mass shootings. Oh, and don't be surprised, though, if I get killed by a police officer when I do that. They don't think about that. They don't think like, oh, will that happen? No, of course. Of course they don't. Like, and look, you know, a lot of people like the guy that chased down the shooter like, what a hero, what a hero. No, the guy was operating on pure adrenaline. I'm not saying that what he did wasn't like, in a way, the right, like, that he had the right, I wouldn't say idea, but it's like heart was in the right place. Like, hey, I want to go and stop the bad guy. But ultimately, that's the last thing that you should be doing. But anyway, again, he talks about how shooter, very, very bad. It's the mental health. It was mentally deranged, right? Well, look, to be fair, anybody who shoots 26 people in church or 26 people anywhere is obviously in some way deranged. I guess I can't really contest that. The man's obviously a monster. We know this. We all agree with that, right? But see, here's the thing. He's making it about mental illness, and mental illness only is a classic deflection. He's like, well, you know, we can have a conversation on if you want to talk about the gun issue, fine. I guess if you want to, but it's really the mental health issue. Okay, so what are you doing about mental health? Oh, right. Nothing. Well, because obviously, number one, you don't want to do anything about gun control. You say it's too early to even talk about it. And then you're saying, well, it's just mental health anyway, you know, so, okay. So you're doing essentially nothing So your plan is more thoughts and prayers. Well, we see where thoughts and prayers have been getting us. These people were murdered in a church. It's not like they weren't literally there praying. So I've had enough with the whole thoughts and prayers bullshit. Look, in reality, mental illness, again, if you want to talk about mental illness, right, and combined with the easy access to powerful weaponry, well, then I think you might be onto something, okay? Easy access plus certain types of mental illness, and that's a very broad subject. It can be thrown around, right? Because anybody from anxiety, depression to bipolar disorder can immediately be lumped into mental illness, even if that 9 times out of 10, the people aren't dangerous at all. But like I said, generally when it comes to certain types, I guess, of mental illness or snapping or something like that, there can be a danger, and easy access to weaponry during one of those states of, you know, anger, rage, whatever, can lead to some bad things. I don't know if that's the case in this case. It definitely seems premeditated, and not one of those, ooh, he just snapped kind of things. No, it seems like the guy was planning it for a while. Again, we don't have the entire full picture or all the evidence on that, but this is more than just a case of, oh, I'm mentally ill, I'm going to go shoot up a church. No, there's got to be a reason. But anyway, look, we're in a country, by the way, that lets people just get weapons. Doesn't matter if you've had any problems before. Doesn't matter if you've done any violence before, as you're going to see in this case. This is somebody that was convicted of violence, of violent abuse against his own family members. According to a Defense Department, according to Defense Department records, Kelley was court-martialed in November 2012 for assaulting both his wife and their child. Now, I don't know the details of that, but if you're court-martialed for assault, that's a bad thing. A judge sentenced him with a bad conduct discharge, 12 months confinement, and 2 reductions in rank to basic airman, according to an appeals court decision in 2013. So again, here's somebody with violence, at least convicted of violence. Who knows how long that history of violence actually went on for. Being able to pass a background check in order to get a weapon in Texas. I wonder if we need better gun control. No. Mental illness. It's mental illness, I'll always tell you. It's too soon to talk about guns, by the way. Well, okay. Well, if it's too soon now, when's the right time? I mean, we couldn't talk about it after Las Vegas. We couldn't talk about it, after the mass shootings or other mass shootings that are extremely common. We couldn't talk about it after Pulse. I mean, we can't talk about it. If we can't talk about it then, when can we talk about it? When? Oh, but Jeff, the whole point is we can't politicize these tragedies. Really? You know what? Fuck that. We can absolutely politicize these tragedies. You know why? Because it's a political issue. Look, if it were a Muslim, right? Say what happened in New York, right? Donald Trump would be out there and his supporters would be politicizing the hell out of it. Oh no, we need a new Muslim ban. We need extreme vetting. We have to until we can figure out what the hell is going on. We've got to politicize the tragedy. So you know what I say? Enough. Let's politicize the fuck out of this. Okay? It is our politicians and the NRA, which, by the way, is funded by the gun manufacturers, to essentially improve and increase arms sales that have the blood of 26 innocent people on their hands. That's it. These people are dead because our spineless politicians are too afraid to actually do something about the problem. They're either bought and paid for, or they're afraid of the small number of crazy people, and I don't mean mental illness in that regard. I mean people who believe in crazy conspiracy theories that are stocked up and loaded with weapons that think the government is out to get them. I mean, you know what? If you're one of those people and you're looking to do harm to your fellow Americans, you know what? I want the government to come get you. I want the government to come get you and to take away your guns. That's what I want. If you're plotting a terrorist attack on behalf of ISIS or some other radical jihadist group, I also want the government to come take your guns. If you're an extreme right-winger who, you know, thinks I'm going to do violence against the government, well, then I want the government to come take your guns. Now, if you want to defend yourself against intruders and rapists, well, that's different. That's fine. Just know that statistically, you're putting yourself and your family in more danger. But I still don't want to take your guns. Nobody's after your guns. If you're a hunter, well, then God bless. I love venison. Hunting's fine. I don't want to take your guns. But that said, if you need more than 6 rounds, if you need anything larger than a 6-round magazine, maybe you're not good at this hunting thing. Just saying. But see, we can't even talk about this, right? We can't even talk about the system that allows this to happen. We're paralyzed through government inaction and through NRA propaganda. It's ridiculous. And yet there are, of course, apologists that are saying we can't talk about any gun control whatsoever. And I'm sorry, but if you're saying that, then you're an apologist for mass shooters. If you're saying that it is only mental illness and it doesn't have anything to do about the guns, doesn't have anything to do about the millions of dollars the politicians take from the gun lobby to not pass things that are incredibly popular, for example, a ban on bump stocks, which we couldn't even do, that a majority of NRA supporters, NRA members said, yeah, we can go without that. Stuff like that. If you're not in favor of doing any of these things, and you say it's the mental illness, then you're an apologist for mass shooters. Just own it, man. You're apologizing for the guns and for the people who use them to commit mass murder. Just own it. Oh, but Jeff, it's not really the gun's fault. The gun's just a tool. I mean, don't blame the gun for what we need is we need people control. You know what? That's exactly what that is. Making sure that we have background checks. Making sure that we have waiting periods. Making sure that we don't have magazines that are larger than 6 rounds. Okay? So that if you're going to be a mass shooter, that you've got to constantly reload. And it gives people the chance to get the hell away. And for the authorities to come and take action. But again, no. The argument is we don't need to regulate it at all. You know why? Because apparently hammers, bats, and fists are more dangerous, kill more people than guns. 30,000 Americans die from gun violence every year. If you can't see the difference between a gun, a bat, a hammer, or your fist, then it's because you don't want to see the difference. Now, I'm tired of the semantics, man. When they use the argument of, well, actually, no. I'm not going to argue semantics while people are dying. Enough. We've had enough, okay? Our fellow Americans are dying because this country has a gun fetish. Even our president, as you can see, has a gun fetish. When is the country going to wake up? When? Look, here's the thing about this, right? These mass shootings. Maybe there are people out there that are still saying, but, you know, hey, man, it's not going to happen to us. You think that it can't happen to you? Well, I bet the people of Sutherland Springs didn't think that it could happen to them either. And look, what about the people in Vegas? What about the people in Newtown, Orlando, Colorado Springs, New York, Charleston? Are you guys getting the point yet? It can happen to you. There is no safe place in America from this anymore. This is happening, and we actually need to either solve the problem or admit that we don't actually want to solve the problem because we value our guns more than our lives. That we value these guns and our so-called freedom than our freedom to not get shot in our streets, malls, concerts, schools, or churches. Now, unfortunately, I think I already know the answer. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.